Today we are doing hill repeats in the name of science. We are out here just north of Chicago city limits because we are testing out these brand new Particle GCX45 climbing wheels. These are by far the lightest set of wheels that I have ever featured on this channel since I started this YouTube channel almost 5 years ago. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, why do I, Patrick, who lives in a place like Chicago where it's pancake flag, why do I need a super light set of climbing wheels? Well, the plan is to going into 2026, I'm planning to finally be able to take my bike out to an area, hopefully in California, where there are some staying inclines where these wheels would make a lot of sense. Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. In today's video, we are taking a look at the super light climbing wheels from a brand that you may or may not have heard of called Particle. And in this video, we're going to be discussing, of course, just who Particle is. We're going to be discussing the price, the specs on these wheels. Of course, we're going to get these bad boys to weigh it out. And then I'm going to be taking these wheels out on the road so I can give you some of my first initial thoughts on these wheels. Now, at the time of uploading this video, Particle is having a Black Friday sale, which if you use my code, you should receive around, I believe it's 25% off of your purchase from Particle, which is a fantastic price, especially once we start to discuss about the price on these wheels. And of course, these wheels were sent to me by Particle. Huge shout out to them. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so first and foremost, who is Particle? So Particle is a pretty unique brand. So the first aspect is they are based in China. However, what makes Particle unique is that both the founder and owner of Particle, he was born and raised in the United States. In fact, his name is also Patrick, like myself. However, despite the fact that he was born and raised in America, he has spent several years in Xiamen, China, among all of the factories and various brands, which being that Xiamen is the carbon capital of the world. So he has a really good balance, a really good understanding of what Western customers want, while also having a lot of experience in these factories in Xiamen. And personally speaking, the language barrier is usually one of the barriers that I've noticed with these brands, because usually English is not their first language. So when it comes to customer service, when it comes to disputes, if it just basically anything goes wrong, sometimes it can be really cumbersome to deal with these brands on the Far East. And so this is one of the ethos among Particle, being that the owner is from America. He really is trying to put a lot of focus and emphasis on customer service, particularly for the Western customers, especially if they speak English. The next aspect that I want to talk about with Particle, with what makes them so unique, is they are registered in Hong Kong rather than mainland China. Now, why would this be important? Well, the reason being is because Hong Kong, as far as what I know, Hong Kong has common law, which is similar to UK. And what this does is this offers a significant amount of protection rights for you, the customer or consumer, versus that of mainland China. So if you have any sort of legal disputes, chargebacks, or even just having your transactions go through when you purchase these wheels, it should be a lot more easier, yet you should have significantly more protection for you, the buyer, versus again, going through mainland China. And the third thing that makes this brand pretty unique, in my opinion, is the fact that 10% of their profits goes to the nonprofit World Bike Relief. Now, World Bike Relief, as far as I know, I believe their headquarters is here in Chicago in the same building as SRAM. And World Bike Relief is a nonprofit, and as of now, they have basically donated around 900,000 bikes to people all around the world, with their idea basically being this sort of sustainable business model, but being able to have people who are in need of bicycles be able to run their errands. It's not just for racers or recreational riders. It's a lot of the focus is really towards those who just need a bike in areas where having an automobile just does not make sense due to the terrain or just for financial reasons. So I can really get behind a brand like this who gives back to nonprofits. Now, next up, let's talk about the specs of these wheels. So this is their ultra light series of wheels. If you go on Particle's website, you'll see that they have a bunch of different specs, different hubs, rims, etc., all these things. So this is their flagship ultralight series, and you can get these in different rim depths. My particular model has 45 millimeters both front and rear. The internal width on these is around 25. The external width is like 31, with the widest point being around 33 millimeters. Of course, as you can see, it has carbon bladed spokes. It uses ceramic bearings, and they are very transparent about where they source their parts from. Being that the owner, Patrick, has a lot of experience with building wheels in Xiamen, China, he's very transparent that he is outsourcing all of the different parts and specs on these wheels. Nothing is really made in-house, that is, excuse me. So even with the ceramic bearings, those are being sourced by a very popular ceramic bearings factory out in China. Somebody's gonna love you no matter what you do. Hey, shout out to Lee Greenwood. This is his second LP. Low-key, I don't fully understand why my parents had his music at all, but as soon as you start to listen to his catalog, he sounds kind of country, kind of yacht rocky, so I suppose it makes a little bit of sense. But anyway, Particle GCX45 wheels, ultra light. So we have carbon spokes, internal width around 25 mil, external width around 31, and then around 33 millimeters at its widest point. We have a Shimano Freehub. Let's get cracking. 45 millimeters deep, front and rear. Alrighty, so for the rear wheel, we have 602 grams, 602 grams. And then for the front wheel, and tubeless rim tape is installed as well, we have, 496 grams. 496 grams, which gives us a grand total of, let's go, 1,098 grams. Guys, these are the lightest wheels I've ever had on this channel, So let's continue. Now, the price point for my particular spec comes in at $1,399 USD, and that is before my Black Friday promotion. But if you go to the website, you can basically play around with the different specs, the rim depth. If you want to upgrade to a 45 or 54 star ratchet hub, you can do all that, which of course is going to fluctuate the price. But for the flagship set of wheels with these particular hubs, carbon spokes, 36 tooth star ratchet hub, you're looking at $1,399 USD. Freehub sound test on these Particle GCX45 ultralight wheels with the 36 tooth star ratchet hub. Now, these aren't the loudest Freehub that I've ever featured on this channel, but keep in mind that louder Freehubs usually tend to introduce more drag when you are freewheeling. Not bad, not bad. So let's continue. Alrighty, kiddos. So we just finished doing a set of hill repeats up here at what I like to call Mount Tower, which is basically a nice uphill pinch just north of Chicago city limits. Basically, you can get around 20 to 30 seconds of an uphill punch at around 10 to 13%. So basically, I used to do these in the summertime to kind of get myself ready for a season of riding with some of my local fast group rides. And man, because it's currently the off season and I have been doing nothing but zone 2, doing even just one set of these hill repeats was pretty difficult. But the reason why we're doing this, of course, is for science, because what we want to find out or determine is whether or not I can feel the difference using these wheels, being that these are essentially climbing wheels. You figure these are under 1,100 grams. And what I noticed right away with these wheels, which I am going to talk about how they feel going up this uphill pinch doing hill repeats, but just out on the road in the crosswinds when you are accelerating from a red light, these are fantastic, guys, because they're so lightweight. Being able to accelerate quickly out of the saddle when you're putting down the pedal, it's instant. And obviously, these are probably the best example of this type of feeling based on all the wheels that I have ever featured on this channel. So when it comes to acceleration with these wheels out of a red light or out of a corner, I'm going to give them 10 out of 10. Next, I want to talk about crosswinds really quickly, because here in Chicago, now that it's fall/autumn, we get a lot of crosswinds coming from the east, from the west, wherever. And I would say the control with these wheels, especially paired to my Tavello Aero, the crosswind stability with these is also fantastic. Again, I'm going going to give these a 10 out of 10. And for someone like myself, where I've been featuring the Scott foil, I've been doing the Velo Build Aero Trace, both of those frames are not so great when it comes to crosswind. It's nice to be back on a bike paired with these wheels where you're able to really be stable in the crosswind. So again, crosswind stability, 10 out of 10. Another thing I want to talk about too is when it comes to being at that speed, basically those rolling speeds. Now, obviously these aren't super deep aero wheels, but I would argue that because they are so stable in the crosswind, you don't feel like you're losing any sort of perceived speed when you are at speed. Now, obviously on Particle's website, you can spec these wheels to be a little bit deeper in depth, but I would argue that for the majority of riders, I think anything between 45 to maybe 55 millimeters in depth, and even at 45, I think this could be the case that you could basically ride these all year and be perfectly fine. You're not going to be losing any speeds with these. And then again, if you do need to accelerate or sort of do a little bit of surging, you're going to have no problems with these wheels at all. So how do these Particle GCX45 wheels feel when you are going up climbs at around 10 to 13% incline? These wheels, as you can imagine, are absolutely fantastic. Now, the drivetrain you see right here, which I have a 52-36 crank in the front and then an 11 to 30 cassette out back, this has been my drivetrain of choice for basically 5 years, I would say, altogether, more or less. And I have done hill repeats, which you can see in the distance. I've done hill repeats in this area for the last, I would say, 3 years. So I pretty much know which particular gear in the rear cassette. I pretty much know which gear I should be in when I am going up this hill doing hill repeats. And what I found is just being able to put the power down, it's instant. These wheels they're really they're stiff. They're not super duper stiff, like they're not harsh when you are out on rough pavement, but as far as power transfer when you are out of the saddle, these wheels are really, really good. What I've noticed is when I'm going up the climbs, due to just the weight and just being able to really spin up these wheels, I've noticed is usually when I get to the uphill pinch, where there's a section on this hill where it's around 13 or 14%, I'm usually in the second to last cog out back. And with these wheels, I found myself sticking anywhere between the third or fourth cog instead. So basically I'm saving a gear or two. Now you can imagine that is some super duper bro science, but all in all, guys, for a set of climbing wheels, if you live anywhere where you have a lot of sustained climbs, here in Chicago we don't have that, but for a set of proper climbing wheels, I would argue that these are really, really good. I really hope that I can continue to feature and review more climbing wheels in the future, but just at a first glance with these wheels, as we will continue to test them throughout the season, these are an excellent set of climbing wheels, and I would argue that they're even a really, really good set of all-around wheels. I am just so blown away with the specs on these wheels, especially given that weight of these all in. I mean, you're talking about a set of wheels that are coming in under 1,100 gram, guys. Think about that. 1,100 grams for a set of 45 millimeter deep wheels. These aren't super shallow, but they aren't super deep either. In fact, these could pretty much be your everyday set of wheels just because of the depth of these wheels. And just the fact that we're able to see in real time some of the abilities that those in Xiamen, China is able to do with building out these wheels. Who would have thought 5 years ago that you would be able to get a set of sub 1,100 wheels at a 45 millimeter depth wheels that you could be using on climbs or even just your everyday usage. So that is going to wrap up today's video, guys. Obviously, this is just a first impressions video, but I am looking forward to putting a lot more miles and kilometers on these wheels. And hopefully going into 2026, I will be able to take these wheels and this bike to an area with proper climbs so we can really put these wheels through their pace. But on paper, looking at the specs, they're fantastic. And even at the price point at $1,399 USD before my discount code, it's clear that Particle is trying to be very transparent while offering cutting edge performance at a pretty reasonable price. Questions, comments, and concerns, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.